Hi guys, welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about the spiritual ego and how this often comes up for us as a common hindrance in our spiritual path. So firstly, what do I mean by the spiritual ego? Well, I guess it's kind of like identifying quite strongly with our sense of progress or wisdom in our minds, or the kind of we feel like we've figured it all out sometimes, or that we know better than others because we've spent so much time and put a lot of work into our path. And regular people are just they're just more ignorant than me. They don't know the way yet, and I should teach them or try to change them or show them the way because they need help and they need my help and I need to fix them. So these kind of things often come up and can be expressed as a kind of spiritual ego or arrogance, or a kind of spiritual eliteness even. And this is actually quite a major hindrance, and it's often a very annoying one when you start to see it in yourself. It's almost like this kind of depressing game of whack-a-mole when you think you've made some progress and then all of a sudden you have this kind of arrogant behavior and you notice it and it's like, oh, the ego is still there. Joke's on me. So it's a bit of a can be a game of whack-a-mole, and no matter whether you're a beginner or more advanced, this thing still keeps coming up, and in often more and more subtle ways. But we always just have to be mindful, and as long as we're present and mindful, we can see this happening to us and see this expressed through us. So sometimes, no matter how mindful we think we really are, this spiritual ego can keep popping up. And often it's not even enough to just practice mindfulness and presence. We also need to focus on compassion. And I think this is often a sign that we're lacking working on our metta or loving kindness. That's often when this kind of spiritual ego comes up. We've just been meditating a lot and reading a lot of philosophy and feeling like we're making progress and getting really good at spirituality. But in actual fact, we've completely neglected a large part of it, which is the loving kindness aspect. Being kind to ourselves firstly, making sure we're not being hard on ourselves, that we have to change ourselves and make progress quickly and fix all our problems. Making sure we don't go down that track within ourselves, and then that can often spill out into this kind of outside spiritual arrogance that other people will start to notice. So firstly, it's always about working on ourselves and focusing on loving kindness and metta or compassion, however you want to put it, making sure you focus on these aspects. Go out and help someone, go out and have a nice conversation with someone, and volunteer for something in your community. All these kinds of activities can help us a lot, and even doing a bit of devotion practice. I know a lot of people neglect this, but just going out and being a bit more humble and just leaving everything up to the higher powers or the universe, rather than trying to control everything too much, especially controlling yourself too much and trying to force progress can just create too much of this spiritual ego, or spiritual eliteness is another word for it. So oftentimes we try really hard to make progress on our spiritual path, and we feel like we're really getting there, and we're just about figured everything out and figured out all the secrets of the universe. And then sometimes we feel a little bit superior to others, and we completely forget one fact, that others are us and we are others. So we start to draw lines, and this comes in a very subtle way when we draw these lines, and we start to form like a identification around this spiritual person or spiritually enlightened person. And this can lead to trying to change other people, trying to fix them or tell them the right way, because you've figured it all out, the right way to do things, and you should teach that to other people and help them and change them. But no, this is not really the way. There's a big difference between truly helping someone, especially when they're ready for it and they've asked you about it, as opposed to just bombarding someone who perhaps needs something else, or perhaps just needs a bit of a break or some compassion, not you telling them how to make progress or fix their problems. Funny enough, this is often a sign that we're actually pushing ourselves too hard in the first place, pushing ourselves spiritually too hard when all we really just need is a break or to do something different. And because we're pushing ourselves hard, we end up kind of spilling over into others and, trying to fix them or, to tell them what to do because we're so enlightened, because we've worked so hard. So the spiritual ego often pops up in times where we feel like we're really making good progress and we're really working hard on ourselves, and then it just pops up, and it's kind of disappointing sometimes when we notice it and we think, oh, I'm not really making as much progress as I thought I would. But the way I like to think about it is it's more about when you're making progress, it's not always in a straight line. It can be kind of oscillations, but on a whole, if you zoom out, we're still moving in the right direction, but there's sort of an ebb and a flow, and it comes back and you realize it, and then you sort of just recognize that the ego has popped up and just accept it and say, yeah, that's normal, and just put it down gently with compassion. Don't reject it as like, oh my God, it's the ego, it's come up again, oh no. You don't need to throw it away or push it away, because that often just causes it to bounce right back. So it's more about putting it down with compassion, just recognizing it and saying, yeah, this is part of the process and it's teaching me something, and this is allowing me to go deeper, just dropping back a bit and go deeper. So just recognizing it and then just gently placing it down, just like, oh yeah, I see it. This is not really required right now, this ego, and we'll just place it down gently. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. We just, not required. We just place it down gently, just really with compassion and loving kindness. So this spiritual ego is something that I still notice from time to time popping up in me. I'm getting better and better at seeing it more early. Some of the signs of it are very subtle and very gradual. So things like trying to fix other people's problems too much, thinking that you have superior knowledge and that your wisdom is better than other people's. You might even think that you've figured all the secrets out, so it's time to start a spiritual YouTube channel. Another way this spiritual ego can pop up is you think that your opinions or your insights about the universe or God or whatever you want to call it are more deeper or stronger than others. So you might think that, meditation is the superior way to become enlightened, as opposed to devotion or other paths. You might think that, atheists are just so stupid because they don't believe in God. You have to believe in God to become enlightened. These are just personal opinions. None of them are true, but we can become attached to them and form a kind of identity around them. And that can be another big cause of the spiritual ego, becoming too attached to your own teachings. Even though teachings are great and very profound and every path is amazing, but ultimately, if you become too attached to these things, it will just hinder your progress. Any kind of information or concepts is just information and concepts and can be described in so many different ways, but it's important to remember that it's just a pointer or a description. The underlying reality is the underlying reality, not the concepts or insights or wisdom, no matter how profound, that you get, are just tools or pointers. And there's so many different versions of them that, you can never say that one person is right or wrong or superior. Even when I'm talking about something which sounds so deep and true, like non-duality, I have to remind myself that anything that I'm talking about, any kind of concept, is just a concept or a pointer, that it's not really the truth. It's kind of a pointer or a pathway to the truth. It's showing you the door to the truth, but it isn't the truth itself. So just reminding myself about that helps me to remember that all paths are valid, they're all different, and they're all just pointers. One more kind of subtle way that the spiritual ego can manifest is you start to see a lot of problems with the world all of a sudden. You feel like you're awake to so many things, and there's so many bad things going on in the world, and it's like, oh, this is so terrible, and you might even get involved with political opinions, having very strong opinions about how the world should be instead of accepting it. So this is kind of a subtle thing that comes through sometimes when you start to be awake to a lot of things around you. You notice you tend to focus on some of the negative things and start to think, oh, the world is just terrible. So again, this is more like a kind of fear and opinion that grows in our head. So it's important to, again, just step back and say, hey, actually there's a lot that's right with the world as well. And noticing the better things and the good things that are there just in equal portions. And that ultimately there's nothing that's really good or bad. It's just opinions, whatever side you're on. So just make sure that you're not getting over opinionated about what is good or bad. And again, coming back to being forgiving to yourself and the world, accepting it with loving kindness. There are also ways to see through or cut through the spiritual ego. A lot of it is around developing humility or humbleness within yourself. This is often one of the most sought after qualities, to really truly be humble. It's really as a kind of a strength. When we look really deeply into ourselves, we might notice where this ego actually comes from. We might start to see certain defilements or qualities within us which give rise to it. So a sense of a kind of a separate self and not being able to accept both the self and what we see around us, trying to change it, trying to make it better or improve it. Yes, we can still be on a path of kind of self-improvement or spiritual development, but this is something that just unfolds naturally from within us, which includes so much that's outside of us. The whole universe is conducive to allowing us to grow this way, and we accept everything that comes because it is all kind of meant to be. It all kind of feeds into your own growth. It's all a part of your own growth, and your own growth is a part of it. So there's no real separation between it. So there's nothing that you can't accept. It's all just part of it. So recognizing this and truly feeling it can help us a lot in terms of being very humble. It's not about this separate being becoming improved. It's actually everything is feeding into this, and we are also feeding into everything. Practice gratitude, which often kind of connects us with everything that feeds into us, and that we are grateful for it, that we accept everything. And it's not all about us making our progress or making ourselves better, but it's actually everything is helping us, and we can remain humble that we're in such a privileged position for this to happen to us. So thanks for watching my video. I hope you got something out of it. And just remember, there's nothing wrong or bad about this ego popping up. It's just a normal thing. Everyone sees it. I still see it occasionally, and getting better and better at detecting it earlier. And just recognizing it and saying, that's just part of the journey. Sometimes it comes up and you recognize it. It's just more learning for you. And just gently put it down. Keep practicing that loving kindness and metta, especially for yourself and then for others. And this is all just part of the journey. So thanks for joining me, and hope to see you in the next one.